So let me just turn on the recording here. So we, good. Just so we have, because Lotta's taking good care of her body, getting through the beginning of cold season, as we're doing here, riding the waves of life. My oldest daughter's been learning some interesting things. She's quite a sensitive person, and her mind tends towards anxiety when there's imbalance. And this week she was feeling a bit shaky, and she was thinking like she was nervous about something. And so we began to explore the sensation she was having in her body, and she realized this sensation was different than nervousness. And so it turns out she might just have an infection, and her body was just telling her something was going on. And we've been talking a lot about emotions lately. And so I laughed and I said, it's not always about emotion. Sometimes your body just doesn't feel well. So it's important just to learn the signal. So that's what we're doing now with her. So I was thinking today we could focus a little bit on a technique called envelope breathing. And this is just a technique where it's a technique used to help us expand the breath. So last week, Sandra, you brought up this term, vagus nerve, which is a set of nerves. And one of the great ways to work with this part of our nervous system is to work on consciously expanding our breath. And envelope breathing just means when we start to move, we'll begin breathing before we move, which is usually a little different than how we sort of automatically come into this relationship with breath and movement. So I know Candy and Heather have touched on this technique before, and Angela in our class, I'm sure we've done it as well. So we'll introduce that idea in. And maybe a mantra. So there's a mantra that's been coming into my practice today, and it's a mantra. It's a short, and according to yoga, I think it's Yoga Rahasya, maybe. It's a book, one of the books written by Krishnamacharya that he credited to older texts. And this mantra was prescribed for people first starting spiritual practice, and women. So you have to remember when you read some of these texts, it says very awful things like there's different kinds of people, and then there's women. There's different prescriptions in these texts. And so this mantra is Om Namo Namaha. Om Namo Namaha. So Namo and Namaha are basically the same words. And the whole mantra can kind of be understood to mean it's not all about me. And it can be a useful mantra for different states of mind. For me, as a person who tends towards anxiety when things are imbalanced, I realize one of my habitual thought patterns when I'm feeling anxious is to make everything about myself. Hi, Melanie. And Om Namo Namaha was a way for me to remember that, oh wait, it's not all about me and my fears and my worries and because that making it about me will tend to overwhelm me. And many, many years ago, one of my good friends in the yoga community, she went to Hawaii for a retreat, and she came back with a gift for me, and it was a t-shirt, and it said, it's all about me. And I didn't think it was a very nice t-shirt. I thought I would never wear this. Why would she give this to me? But I took the gift as it was given. It was a very nice thing, and I stuffed it away. And when I came across this mantra, Om Namo Namaha, and realized that meaning, it became my practice that when I found myself in this loop of thinking and making everything about myself, I would put on this t-shirt to remind myself how ridiculous I was being, because it wasn't all about me. And so when we'll use that mantra a little bit today, in the practice. And as Gary Kraftsaw said, this mantra is it's like a solvent of self-importance. And I think when we're in a state of mind that feels content, we're able to look at the world as a whole and see a little bit bigger picture. And so this for me has been the reminder. So we'll use the technique of envelope breathing. And Melanie, I'll just repeat that part. When we use the asana today, we're gonna start the breath before the movement and end the breath after the movement stops. So it's like the breath envelops the whole movement. And it's just a technique to expand the breath, to slow the breath. So let's begin first with just a seated breathing practice. If you know the technique called Pratiloma Ujjayi, you can use this technique, just do about 3 rounds of that. If you don't know what that technique means, just take some deep breaths, with each breath a little bit deeper, a little bit slower, to begin to feel the system and how it is. As you begin to tune in to your breath and deepening and expanding through the body, just having the awareness open and soft, noticing the experience of sitting and breathing. As you tune into your breath, I'll just offer the opening invocation and mantra. I was reminded of this by another colleague in the US, offering an online practice at the same time as us. So we practice with some of our old colleagues in this tradition. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Punatu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vatitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Continue breathing with whatever technique is working for you. Become aware of the sensation of a full inhale and a completely empty exhale, as much as possible, of course. And just notice what that is for you today. And so there's different ways to work with this. You can use the sensation in your body of a full breath and just work towards touching that sensation as we move. If you like to use numbers and counting, you can, in your mind, count how many beats an inhale is and how many beats an exhale is. The technique is not so important as the awareness it asks us to have. I'm just going to do about 3 more rounds of my breath. Continue at whatever pace you're using. Let your jaw be relaxed, the forehead, the face. And slowly and eventually we'll begin to transition to standing. So complete whatever breath cycle you're on, or if you feel like you need a little bit more sitting and breathing, take that space for yourself. So I like this space to continue to be free and open as you find something interesting and worthy of exploration. There's no need to follow all of my instructions. So as we come, take a moment to notice the sensation of the feet touching the floor. An image I use this week. So the last weeks have been calling me to work more with young people, teenagers or preteens in particular, with these techniques. So one image I used the other day with my friend Sarah is this image like the feet have roots that go all the way down to the center of the earth. So there's a feeling of stability, safety, security. Again, this sense of Om Namo Namaha. So my experience in this life doesn't end with this body. There's an aspect of me that's much bigger, more expansive. So if that helps, feel that sense of rooting into the core of the earth. And like a tree, you continue to grow upward. And so as we begin simple movements, like we always do, begin with the awareness that the breath begins before the movement begins. So you can take maybe just 1 second, begin the inhale, and then move. Begin the exhale, and then drop the arms. So depending on your own breath capacity, the movement will be faster or slower than mine. So inhale first, then engage the arms. Exhale first. And just do that a few times. Depending on what's happening with neck and shoulders, maybe an awareness of lifting and dropping the chin will be useful to awaken those muscles in the neck and shoulder. Just try that, enveloping the movement with the breath. First, inhale. Then exhale. Those of you more deeply rooted in the breath practice, this gap can be a little larger. The different ways you practice this will have a different effect on the biomechanics. So just find a way that feels comfortable. If you like adding a little bit of balance to this, as you breathe in and then inhale, lift the heels and the hands. Waking up the ankles a little bit more, the knees a little bit more. Begin the exhale, then drop the hands, drop the heels. So just do a few rounds like that. Begin the inhale, then lift the heels and hands. Begin the exhale. Just about one more round. Begin the inhale, then lift. Begin the exhale and drop. And Zandra, I know these techniques are a little newer to you, so do what feels possible and feels comfortable with your breath without feeling uncomfortable. So it might be easier just to breathe in and breathe out as you move, but just experiment and see how it feels. For me, it took the longest time to match the breath of my first teacher, Eurus, than it did for me to do all the movements. So now we're just going to touch the floor. So I'm going to keep the movement simple so we can pay more attention to the breath. So we're going to touch the floor and come back up. Or actually, you know what? We'll add a little something. So just watch for a second. So we'll begin the exhale. We'll move down. Begin the inhale. Come halfway up. Exhale down. Begin the inhale all the way up. And pause. Okay, so let's try that. So we'll inhale here. Begin the exhale. And slide the hands down. Begin the inhale. Then lift halfway up. Begin the exhale. All the way down. Begin the inhale. All the way up. Stay here, exhale. So we'll continue that pattern. Inhale. Exhale, begin the breath, then the movement. Begin the inhale, lift halfway up. Begin the exhale, then drop down. Begin the inhale, then lift up. Stay there, exhale. Inhale. We'll do 2 more rounds. Begin the exhale all the way down. Begin the inhale halfway up. Begin the exhale all the way down. Begin the inhale all the way up. Exhale here. Stay, inhale. Begin the exhale all the way down. Begin the inhale halfway up. Begin the exhale all the way down. Begin the inhale all the way up. Stay standing. Okay. Let's come down to standing on the knees. I have a new blanket and I haven't really mastered the folding of it yet. There we go. Got some wrinkles. So we'll just do simple Vajrasana. We'll do with, we'll bring the hands to the low back when we come down. So the inhale, the simple movement will just be this, inhaling up, exhaling down, and inhaling back up. And just continue that movement. So if this is a newer movement to you, I encourage everybody, take space. So the knees don't have to be close together. They can be a little further apart. make space for our bodies to pass through to lay on the legs. So just find your comfort in this movement. And then the next time you come to standing, stay up, or standing on your knees, stay up and just pause a moment. Bring the hands down, good. And then I want to just bring in this mantra. It's 3 words. So we'll do 2 times. I'll break it into pieces and we'll do each piece 2 times, using the movement. So we chant on exhale. So when I chant, we're going to inhale. And then as we exhale, you repeat what I said. So exhale everything out. We'll do just regular breath, no envelope breathing this time. You repeat as you come down. Inhale up. You repeat down. Gonna introduce a new sound. Up, inhale. Om Namo. Repeat. Om Namo. Inhale up. Om. Repeat down. Om Namo. A little bit longer, one more word. Inhale up. Om Namo Namaha. Exhale down. Om Namo Namaha. I see 2 pictures are frozen, so I'm not sure how that went. As you complete sound. Thank you, Melanie. So I'm not so stable. That helps me. Okay. Melanie, can you hear me okay now? No. Good. Okay. All right. So we seem to be back on. So some version of that practice came through. We'll see. We'll see in the recording how badly it crapped out there. So let's come on to lying on the belly. And with the energy and attention, we can come back to this envelope breathing. So the arms can come in whatever position supports your posture here. So if there's a bit of tightness here in the shoulders, the front of the chest, a position where the hands are back and the elbows are up might feel really nice for that part. For some of us, it feels better with the elbows down, the hands down. So just play a little bit. Hands out is a nice adaptation, or even the hands next to the body. So whatever suits you best. Let's bring the forehead to the floor. And this movement is simple. Inhale coming up, exhale coming down. Adding the envelope breathing. So begin the inhale and then lift. Begin the exhale and come down. Begin the inhale and lift. Begin the exhale and come down. So just do that 2 more times, your own rhythm. And then after your last round, come up in the posture. Stay there. If you'd like to do any leg variations, feel free. We'll just stay here for a few breaths. Feel the whole back of the body engaged. Maybe a little bit of heating, a little bit of warming. And when you feel that your back is nice and warm, just come down, release. Relax the arms, the shoulders. Pause a moment. And then as you feel ready, roll over onto your back. So you can take a little time, feels nice. To just feel the back and then eventually lie down on the back. Maybe a little bit of Apanasana feels nice, or maybe a little bit of rocking side to side for some of you. Just a gentle lengthening of the low back. Eventually the feet come down, you can let the knees move side to side. And then let's just do a gentle twisting. So you can choose whichever version feels nice. You can keep the feet on the floor and just gently twist from one side to the other side. We can let go of the envelope breathing in this posture. So just keep the breath maybe more similar to what you're used to, moving and breathing together. Or if you like, lift the feet away from the floor and twisting a different part of the spine. I find that with the knees up, I'm feeling more my mid and upper back. So inhaling up and exhaling, twisting. And be aware of controlling the movement. So no flopping to one side. If the shoulder comes up very high as you twist, it might be more comfortable to keep this hand closer to the hip. So instead of being out wide, your hand might be hanging out in the air. Let's try to find a nice root for the hand. So bring it down a little bit more. It might feel more pleasant on the shoulder to do something like that. And then you can switch the hands as you roll. So this hand that's outstretched is a little bit of a support, like a kickstand on a bike, and then come up and switch. Sandra, your brother taught me this variation with the arms. Works really well for him. And eventually just stay on one side. Let the knees be down. Either with the feet wide apart down by the mat or the knees to the side. Using whatever support feels comfortable. Make sure this shoulder here is comfortable.
So for those of you where the shoulder is comfortable in an easy position, we can move this hand. So my knees are to the left side. I'm going to move my right hand, starting from a position close to the hip, and inhale, just sweeping the arm up. Depending on your shoulder, this sweeping may only go halfway up or less, and down. But just sweep the arm as far as you can with the hand still connected to the floor. So with hypermobile shoulders, I can go all the way up to my head, but not everybody's shoulders are happy with that. So just inhaling, sweeping the hand, and exhale, swimming it down. Be aware of the neck and the position of the head. And when I say be aware of, just letting you know that if there's any tightness or discomfort created by the position you're holding your head in, please change it and explore a way that feels more comfortable. So just know that your movement may look very, very different than mine, but it's not better or worse. It's just respecting your body. After a few rounds on one side, we'll come to the center. After a moment, we'll twist the other direction. If you like this arm sweeping variation, then continue that with the other side now. When you feel like you've completed both sides, pause for a moment. Back in the center. And let's just do a little bit of this movement with the knees and ankles. So we'll do an asymmetric version. Keep one foot on the floor, pull the other knee up towards you. Just keep the hands on the floor. We'll use the arms this time. So you'll inhale, lift up, arms overhead. Exhale, bend the knee, drop the foot, hands next to your body. If you like the envelope breathing technique, so begin the inhale, then lift the heel and hands. Begin the exhale, drop the heel and hands. So whatever space you need to begin the breath and then the movement, 1, 2, maybe even 3 seconds. All right.
So sorry, guys, I got booted out of the practice. Luckily, I got booted out on a posture we do often. So from here, eventually we'll stay with the foot up, moving the ankle, the foot. Good. And then a few rounds as it feels nice, just waking up the hip flexor, letting this foot come down and back up. With or without the envelope breathing. Notice how it feels to try this different technique. It's different than the habit of our movements, especially if we've been practicing for a long time. I find that sometimes it creates in me a sense of impatience because my movements are now at a slower pace and it's requiring more attention. And then after your hip flexors start to wake up here a bit, then just release, pause a moment, feel the body. I notice in myself this sense of resentment that arises sometimes when I'm asked to give more attention than I want to give to a certain situation. So just notice that for me is one of the many little alarm bells in my life when I feel annoyed that I'm being asked to pay attention. Because unfortunately, we're not always in control of what we must pay attention to. As my children are teaching me over and over again. Eventually, we'll switch to the second side. So on inhale, we'll lift. And exhale, lower down, adding this little space of the envelope breathing. So inhaling first. And exhaling before the movement begins. In yoga and Zen and all the great arts of spiritual practice, they give us the capacity to stretch our attention. So that when life gives us no choice but to have to pay attention to something we don't want to deal with, we have a little bit more space for that to happen with a sense of ease. Because really, what else are we going to do? This is just living. And eventually, after a few rounds, we'll just keep that foot up, feeling that movement of the ankle, lower leg. Eventually, this hip flexor engagement. And biomechanically, this envelope technique also creates a lot of space for holding a little bit longer in a part of the movement that we may not always hold.
And when you feel that those hip flexors have woken up a bit, just come down, pause a moment. Feel maybe a little bit the heat. Waking up really the root chakra, inner thighs, hip flexors, the whole pelvic bowl. And then from here, just rolling onto one side, coming up to sitting. Simple version, Paschimottanasana. Whatever adaptation you like, legs can be straight on the floor. You can be sitting on a cushion. You can use a bolster under the knees like I'm doing. Use the arms however you like. Use the envelope breathing if that feels comfortable. We'll inhale, nice straight spine, lift, 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 lift. Exhale, belly to the legs, chest to the legs, shoulders forward, head down, neck long. Then inhale, reverse that. Head, neck, shoulders, belly, sit up nice and straight. With or without the envelope technique. And eventually, let's stay a little bit in this posture. You can keep the hands on the floor. You can bring the hands to the legs or to the feet, whatever feels appropriate. Just a few deep breaths here. Come all the way back up. Simply come back to the floor. We'll just do a little bit of deep Hatha Pitham with a little bridge. A little bit of simple back bending. And we can do this in a nice, simple, integrated way. Each breath just coming up a little bit and coming down all the way. In each breath up, lifting maybe a little higher. Maybe you find today the limit is just keeping things close to the floor. So whatever way you want to practice this posture, just inhale up, exhale down. So this sense of impatience that I talked about when changing a habit, this is a little bit of the fire of what we call tapas in the tradition of yoga. Tapas is one of the foundational ideas of practice and what it is. So it asks us to pay attention when we practice. And sometimes being asked to pay attention can create some fire in us. And that fire can be the fire of purification. It can actually help us move past our own ideas. So for me, this practice of envelope breathing is a practice with a little bit of extra tapas. Because generally when I practice asana, I begin the breathing and movement at the same time. So with this idea of daily integrated yoga, whatever yoga is, one of the things we can do is notice when life is asking us to pay attention. Because especially as we get older, you know, we don't have to be the monk in the mountain creating extra effort of paying attention, because life is asking us to pay attention constantly. And if we create too much tapas in our personal spiritual practice, that fire might become a little bit too much. Now we have this nice word in English, burnout. Too much fire. So eventually, after working with this little bridge, Dvipada will come down, keep the pelvis on the floor, bring the knees and feet together. And let's just inhale, open the knees wide. Exhale, knees come together. Whatever breathing pattern feels appropriate to you. The image this brings to my mind is always the one of the butterfly just sitting on a flower, doing the little movements they do. It seems to be exercising their wings. I'm not sure what they're doing, but just slow movements of the wings as they sit there. So the legs are like pulsing wings of a butterfly with the same kind of lightness and gentleness. From this position, if it feels comfortable to keep the knees out to the side for a few breaths, a little bit of lengthening in the inner thighs, maybe a sensation of stretching for some of you. And then at some point, we'll move from this position to a resting position, some type of shavasana. So whenever you feel ready, you can move into that position. Make sure that you stay warm, maybe socks on the feet if you don't have them on. And in whatever position feels comfortable, let's stay and rest. So make sure that your neck feels supported. If you're lying on the back, see if it would feel comfortable to feel like the shoulder blades are lying like plates under your shoulders. So you might need to adjust a little bit. Notice if there's any adjustments that would feel nice in the hips and pelvis. And then we'll just rest for a few minutes in the space of your home, whatever noises or sounds may be coming. So those of us with particularly small people living in our house or animals, just let those sounds be part of the soundscape of your life in this moment.
Notice how this practice sits in your body mind. Simple movements done slowly with maybe greater attention on the breath technique. Maybe slower breath than what you're used to. Maybe something different. Just notice that. And when we look at the effects of our bodies at the end of practice, we let go of an opinion about how it's supposed to be. If I did it wrong, I did it right. You did it. And now there's a result. And that's what we're interested in yoga. We're not fixing anything. We are applying technique and creating an effect and seeing what that effect is. If it's something useful to us, then we build on that. If we're not sure if it's useful or not, we come back to somebody with more experience, ask questions, try again. So this envelope breathing, I'll bring in a poem shared by Mirka with me, written by an Italian Buddhist monk. And Mirka and I worked on this translation from the original Italian. In Italian, it's Che la pace ci avvolga. And that means may peace envelop us. So as we imagine this envelope breathing, it's like peace enveloping us. And these are the words. So you can listen as your mind softens and words aren't processed. Just let the sound of my voice wash over. May peace envelop us like a thin veil of fog on a summer morning. May peace unite us beyond the scratching thicket of words and envy, beyond judgment and prejudice. May a fiery plow burn our weaknesses away. May a fiery sword cut the knots of ignorance and remove the timbers that blind us while we search for the splinter in another's eye. May life be sweet as it should be. May your smile be sweet as always and everywhere. And may sweetness be with us always. This is what all people need, not hardness of a heart. May peace envelop us and hold us in a tight embrace, long enough to fill the warmth of all beings with their fears and pains, long enough for us to feel the warmth and tenderness of our own heart with all its fears, and the unbearable pain of all its wounds. May peace kiss us with its silent lips, and may its love melt the glacier of our souls. May peace unite us, because while we are all walking different paths, we are moving towards the same end. And no being, not even one, is better or worse than another. And no path, not even one, is better or worse than the path of the one walking next to you. Che la pace ci avvolga. And then as you feel ready, just take your time in whatever way you like. Come back to sitting. So those of you who can stay a moment longer, just sit in this quiet place. Angela, I know you have another meeting coming. And in a moment with the palms of the hands together, touching. Remembering all those great faces and parts of community when we open with Sahana. And now we offer a bit of this peace back out to that same community and all beings everywhere. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Thank you all. I'll end the recording if anybody'd like to